to the Dawgs podcast with your hosts, Blake Reneker, Justin Charles, and Josh All.
Well, what's up, Browns fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Dawgs podcast. Justin and Blake coming to you today virtually. We will be virtual now and probably at least a few weeks. Josh was supposed to be here with us today, and he decided he was going to have a baby instead. So congratulations to Josh. Baby is healthy. Mom's doing good. So everybody's really excited for Josh and his family welcoming a little one. Another future depressed Browns fan has entered the world. But Josh does all of our editing and producing. He's the brains behind the operation in terms of how we look and sound. So I don't 100% know when you're going to hear this episode. We're recording this on Wednesday. I have a feeling he's not going to get a chance to get it out until maybe Friday, depending on how things are going. So if stuff has happened between now and then, don't come yelling at us like, you guys are stupid. Well, we just can't see the future, but we still wanted to get together and record and put some stuff out here for you guys. But congratulations to Josh. Everybody gives Josh a shout out, new papa here on the Dawgs podcast. We have a fun one to get to today. Some topics we want to get into, obviously hiring a new QB coach, AB with some comments on Myles. The Senior Bowl has started. A lot of talk about some of the episodes we put out previously about taking a quarterback that we want to clear up some, I think, misconceptions on the way some things are being taken. So we got a good one to get into today. But before we do that, remember, if you want to get your thoughts and intros on the show, head to thedawgspodcast.com, tap leave voicemail on the drop-down menu. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Make sure you tap the notification bell so you don't miss any of the content that we're putting out. If you prefer just listening to the show, you can find us on Apple, Spotify, and Google. You can find us on any of the social media platforms. Just search at the Dawgs podcast. And last, if you're looking for more Dawgs content, head to jointhedawgs.com, become an official Dog Pack member on our Patreon page, get access to the private Discord. You get to play fantasy football with us, meet Browns fans from all over the world. And we are in the process of brainstorming how to revamp the Patreon. We want to make it bigger and better, more attractive, and just all around more fun for anybody who's already in it and anybody who may be interested in joining. So if you're in there already, obviously you know how to reach us. Let us know your thoughts. But if you've been thinking about joining the Dog Pack and you just haven't pulled the trigger and there's something you wish we offered that would kind of help entice you or you think would be a cool idea, let us know. We're trying to make it better, and any thoughts and ideas are helpful. So we want to make it as best as we can for you guys. So help us out. I lost my train of thought. So we'll just get into the episode.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, this is, I think, episode 491 now. We told you guys on the last week's episode, we're going to have episode 500 right around the corner. I'm not going to spoil it, but I believe we have a pretty cool episode in the works. A couple of surprises for you guys, especially some of the people who've been watching since the very beginning. I think you guys will really like it. So be on the lookout for that. If, depending on how things go with Josh's home situation, and I know me and Justin and Kenny plan on doing some episodes to fill that void. But we're looking like that'll probably be the middle of March when we finally get to episode 500, or not March, February. And we got a pretty fun episode lined up. At least it's being planned. So make sure you guys are on the lookout for that. Again, make sure that notification bell is tapped so you don't miss it when it does drop. So Browns make headlines this week. They've been interviewing for quarterback coaches. They decide to promote from within again. They promote Bill Musgrave, quarterback coach. He was just an assistant, an offensive assistant. I think that was like what his title was.
Yes. Yeah. Senior assistant.
Yeah. Tons of QB coach experience around the league. He has been a QB coach for as far back as Mark Brunell. For anybody who remembers Mark Brunell, Matt Ryan, Derek Carr. Derek Carr's first two Pro Bowls. Bill Musgrave was his quarterback coach. So I guess the first thing I want to throw to you, Justin, is and a little bit of curveball because we didn't talk about it. How do you feel about the second promotion from within? I've seen some pushback online where it's like, we just went 3-14. Do you mean tell me there's not better candidates outside the building, the people who helped contribute to go 3-14? So how do you feel about a second promotion from within? And just, I guess in the same line of thinking then is, do you like the hire in terms of his experience and what he's going to help bring with the team? What do you think it says in terms of free agency plan and draft plan?
Mm-hmm. So as far as like the second hiring from when I've seen a lot of people talking about like, you know, this is Kevin having control of everything and stuff like that. I don't look at it like that, man. I look at it as like, that's a guy that Kevin trusts. for me, as far as like my opinion rolling into this year, Kevin Stefanski, this is his team. He's going to do it his way. Like, live by the sword, die by the sword. I think that's what the deal is. And he's getting his guys in place. You know what I mean? He's promoting. He wants his guys in place. But I don't really, as far as that goes, I don't care about the double, hiring. It's all good to me. As far as like, like the importance or do I like it? Who knows yet? You know what I mean? Because obviously he's not like a guy. He's not so innovative with offenses that he wasn't promoted up within us. You know what I mean? I think he's like a good manager. And I think it says a lot about what we're going to do moving forward. As far as like what you're talking about with free agency draft, I think we're going to draft a young quarterback. And I think that this guy is put in place to basically, he's going to be the one to develop this kid, and obviously like Tommy and coach, they're going to have their say and they're going to be in those rooms. But like, I think it says a lot about the direction as far as what we are going to do the next couple of months.
Oh, for sure. I think there's zero doubt that there's going to be at least one new quarterback on this roster. In my opinion, I think there's going to be 3 new quarterbacks.
I was going to say, bet the over, bro. Yeah, bet the over on that.
And I would be, at this point, I'm going to be shocked if we don't take quarterback at 2. It's just which one, and we're going to talk about that. But there's going to be, I think I could see us drafting more than one quarterback. I could see us adding more than one quarterback. So I think it was important for them to go get a quarterback coach, because I don't think we've had one, to be honest.
I don't think we have either. I don't think we've had one since, with Stefanski.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
So we've never had a guy just dedicated to being the quarterback coach. So I think this signifies that there's going to be a young quarterback on the roster that they are going to be heavily invested into making sure he is successful. Whoever that is, we don't know yet. Time will tell. I think there's a lot of time. A lot of people are speculating on the draft and all that good stuff. It's just so hard to tell without free agency happening first, and without combine and pro days and interviews and all that good stuff. I know that AB spent a lot of time talking to Shador at the Shrine Bowl. So did I think all 3 of the top 3 picks: the Titans, the Browns, and the Giants. Spent a lot of time talking to him. So I've been trying to watch some videos on the top quarterbacks coming out. I've watched some Todd McShay stuff talking about Cam Ward, Shador. So I'm trying to get I got some time to get fully knowledgeable on all these prospects. So, but I think there's no doubt that the Browns are going to go quarterback at some point in this draft. And at this point, I'd be shocked if it's not number 2.
I'm with you, man. Like, as far as the number 2 thing, and I know like we've all kind of disagreed and had disagreements about what we do with that pick, right? But can we not put enough emphasis on how important that position is? You know what I mean? Look at the playoffs. All the teams, for the most part, have great quarterback play. It's super important. Why is Patrick Mahomes in another Super Bowl? You know what I mean? Like, he's very good, but like they have everything together. Josh Allen, like we need to find that guy, and we'll get more into like what, we could be as far as like with competent quarterback play. But like, I don't think you can put enough emphasis on how important that position is. And so looking at what we saw last year, complete dysfunction in the quarterback room. We need an overhaul. I don't know how you don't address it. And I've been one to say, hey, we should trade back and take a defensive player. But I mean, it's a glaring issue with this team, man. You know what I mean?
No, I completely agree. You said complete dysfunction at the quarterback position last year. You can make the argument outside of 2020, it's been complete dysfunction at the quarterback position ever since, because you had Stefanski's first year where Baker played at a high level, team made the playoffs. And then the next year, Baker gets injured, doesn't play well. We move on from him. Deshaun's suspended. We're playing with a backup for 11 games. Then Deshaun comes in. He's playing his first games in, 2.5 years calendar time. Come in the next year, it's up and down. He's had some good games. He's had some bad games, injured. Then next thing you know, you're starting 4 other quarterbacks throughout the season. PJ Walker is winning you games. And then you come into this year and it's poor play, season-ending injury, and then just quarterback carousel the rest of the year. So it's been complete dysfunction at the quarterback position, honestly, for 3 years now, and I think it needs solidified. And I guess we can just kind of jump to this topic in terms of the quarterback. We put out an episode last week, and I talked about go get your guy. Like, you can't skip taking the quarterback because you're not guaranteed to be in a position to take another one next year. And the pushback on a lot of people is don't just reach on a quarterback because you need one. And I guess I should clarify in terms of, I'm not saying you think this guy is not going to be good. Well, I'm going to draft him anyways because I think because we need a quarterback. I'm saying there's no way that they're all going to be bad. So you have to put in your time and your research and your energy and every resource you have into figuring out which one is going to be the guy that is good for you. And then there's no such thing as a reach, in my opinion, if it means getting that guy. So if the Browns come out of this entire process, Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl, free agency, combine, all this stuff, and they say, we think Jackson Dart is the best quarterback in the draft. We don't care if some people have him as the 4th. We don't care if he's a 3rd round grade for some people. We think if we draft this guy, he will be our quarterback for 10 years. Then you take him at 2. And some people are like, no, you can trade out of there and you can get him. No, you don't play around. If you think that is the guy that is going to, you don't play because the draft is unpredictable. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if somebody's going to take a flyer on him. And the next thing, then you're kicking yourself when you're fired next year because you didn't get the guy you wanted. It's just, like you have to, I'm saying you have to identify the guy. One of them is going to be a guy. Okay. And you have to go find him and then you take him. And you don't take any chances. And I'm saying you don't worry about if people are saying he's a reach. You could have got him at pick 50 or no. You don't take the chance because nothing else matters until you get that position right.
No, I'm with you, man. And how many times have we been burned by trading back? How many times, man? And for guys that aren't even on our team, or maybe they are, but not as important as a quarterback. I mean, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. And the argument of like trading back and taking a guy later, look at like the last few years of drafts. Teams that need a quarterback, they're not sitting back and waiting or trading back and letting things fall in place. They're aggressive. They trade 1st round picks and multiple draft picks to go get their guy. Is it always the guy? Not always, but like you said, you can't just assume that a team's going to sit back and just let a guy fall to you, especially if they know you need that guy.
My favorite argument has been trade back with a quarterback needy team and get a bunch of picks. We're the quarterback needy team.
Fair, bro. That's
okay. Fair. And if your argument is don't waste a top pick because none of these quarterbacks are worth a top pick, but you think a quarterback needy team is going to give you all these picks because they need a quarterback that you are saying isn't good enough and that we should trade out for. Well, if you think that, their GM probably thinks that. So you're not going to be able to break the bank and get tons of, because apparently everybody knows none of them are worth it. So like the funniest argument to me is you could just go fleece somebody who's a quarterback needy team and get a bunch of picks and then you can get one later. Well, first of all, we're that team that needs one. Yep. And second of all, if the whole world knows that they're not worth the number 2 pick, what makes you think we'll be able to fleece anybody to move up to 2 to get a guy that you don't think is good enough to be taken there?
To go with what you're saying too, I've heard the argument like, hey, let's wait till next year on quarterback because they're not thrilled with the class. You know what I mean? And that's fair. If you don't think it's a great quarterback class, that's completely fine. But you can't just assume that the next year is going to be great or that you're going to even be in a position to take a guy. You know what I mean? Like, if we're going to do all these things that Browns fans are saying, like we're going to bring in Kirk Cousins and we're going to, be aggressive in free agency and stuff, we're winning more than 3 games. We're going to win more than 3 games. And if we win 3 games again, then we're completely starting over. You know what I mean? But like, to me, like you have to hit it. You've got to start addressing it. And I know we've been trying to address it our whole lives, but you look at the league, that's the narrative. The teams that have quarterbacks, they're okay. I mean, look at Washington. Washington wasn't a great team last year. They get a quarterback, a rookie sensation, they win 12 games. And I mean, there's a lot more that went into that, but quarterback is super important.
This episode is brought to you by Bodden Sports. Browns fans, Bodden Sports is your one-stop shop for all your athletic gear. Bodden started out perfecting and manufacturing the best balls in the business. Yeah, if that sounded dirty, that's more about your mind than my words. But hey, it's true. Baseballs, softballs, footballs, basketballs, volleyballs, soccer balls, you name it, and Bodden has engineered the highest standard sports balls available. And now they offer more than just sports balls. If you got kids playing baseball or softball, Bodden has batting gloves and bats to go along with both game balls and training balls. If you're into basketball, Bodden makes basketball specifically for indoor or outdoor use. Heck, Bodden even has all the equipment you need for pickleball, which is one sport that I hear everyone is playing and yet I still never have. And I need to fix that soon. But don't miss the backyard games section of Bodden's website where you can order everything you need for this upcoming outdoor season. Pool balls, backyard volleyball nets, croquet, bocce, horseshoes, cornhole, and more. Right now, you can get 10% off your entire order at Bodden Sports, BADEN sports.com/dogs, DAWGS, and use promo code DOGS when you check out. That's 10% off all the top quality sporting gear you need this season. BoddenSports.com/dogs.
The thing about it's a bad quarterback class, you don't know. It's all speculation.
I don't know.
You know what I mean? Everybody swore that you could not miss if you drafted Trevor Lawrence. Is Trevor
Caleb Williams?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, does everybody out here think that Trevor Lawrence is the next Andrew Luck? Because that's the way he was talked about. And like, if you drafted Trevor Lawrence, you were getting the guy. And then the opposite end of that spectrum, everybody clowned the Broncos for taking Bo Nix. Turns out it looks like he's going to be pretty good. You know, so it's not like it's all speculation. So much about quarterback, and if he's going to be successful, is the fit, the culture around them, the organization, the coaching staff, the offense you're going to run. Like, would Jaden Daniels be Jaden Daniels without Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury? Right. I don't, it's hard to tell. He's obviously very talented. All these guys are talented, like, or else they wouldn't be in this position. So it's so much about fit, which is why I'm saying the promotion of Bill Musgrave, getting Tommy Rees, making sure everybody's on the same page, and then just putting in the work to identify that guy, even if it's not the guy that everybody else thinks it's going to be. Maybe it's not Shador or Cam Ward. Like I said, it's Jackson Dart, and maybe it's Jalen Milroe. I do not think it's Jalen Milroe, but I'm just throwing names out there. But I'm just, for the point of find your guy, identify the guy that you think is the guy who can turn the franchise around in terms of the play at the quarterback position, and then get him. You don't take any chances. And here's the thing is, I would rather take that risk at 2. And then if it doesn't work out, guess what? We'll be bad. And then we'll get to pick another one again next year. Nothing says you can't pick one 2 years in a row. The Cardinals just did it with Josh Rosen, and then they turned around and picked Kyler Murray number 1 overall. So I'm going to take that chance at number 2 on the quarterback that I've identified and I've put all the work in that is going to be good for us. And then if it doesn't work out, chances are we're right back here again next year, and it's no harm, no foul. Yeah, it sucks to lose a year, but I'm taking that chance. The juice, to me, that risk is worth the reward.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. I'm with you on that.
Another thing I wanted to clarify is that a lot of people are saying, trade back, sign a bridge, We also want to sign a bridge on this show. I don't think anybody on the show is saying we should draft one of these guys at 2 and then them be the plug and play starter week 1.
Throw them to the wolves. Yeah. I disagree.
We've been saying on the show, at least myself, is I would draft 2 quarterbacks. I would take one at 2. I'd take another one in the 4th or so, if any of them last that long, depending on, how this draft goes. And then I'm also adding a bridge, and I'm telling my rookie who I took at 2, you're going to sit a year or 2, depending on who this bridge is. And then we're going to get you ready. You're going to be in this system. We're going to have a winning culture built around you and all that good stuff. While you're on your rookie contract, we'll be able to keep building up the roster. That way, when you do step into play, you're not just stepping into a dumpster fire. Like, if I said this before, if Patrick Mahomes can sit a year, whoever we take this year can sit a year. So we're not saying go draft a guy at 2, hand him the keys to the franchise, and plug and play starter week 1 this year. No, whoever we drafted to, I do not want to see play this year. As much as it would be exciting, I don't want to see him step onto the field this year unless it's just apparent that he is beyond ready And he's the
Right.
guy, you know what I mean? Like you can't keep him off the field. He is
Keep him off the field. Yeah.
too good. It's beyond apparent that he's ready, because I don't want to ruin his confidence. I don't want to get him beat up. I don't want to do any of that stuff. So we are on the draft a guy, maybe two guys, but we're still all in on the adding the bridge quarterback for this season, at least, if not 2 years, depending on how it goes. And I'm of the opinion, which we'll get into, that if we do add a good bridge quarterback, the Browns won't be in position to draft a top-ranked quarterback next year. And I've had some pushback on that, which we'll get to, but we'll move on. Before we get to that, we don't want to get too far out of our list. So the other big news, it just happened today, was Andrew Berry came out and basically said Myles is untradeable. There's been some speculation in the offseason that he could be trade bait for people, because if the Browns are entering a rebuild, I get the sense that this team and this front office and this ownership isn't looking at this as a rebuild. I think they're looking at this as a retool. I think they know that they swung and missed at the trade for Deshaun. And they're saying, okay, it didn't work, but that doesn't mean we need to blow this up. A lot of our core guys are still here. Myles, Denzel, the 4 of the 5 starting offensive linemen are coming back. Like there's, I think they're going, we still got our core. We just got to get this quarterback position righted. Jerry Jeudy looked like he could be a number 1 for us. So I don't think they're looking at this as a rebuild. But basically he came out and said, 2 first rounds wouldn't do it. He's untradeable. You're not going to get Myles Garrett. In fact, I would sign him to an extension. Do you think that's just front office talk to drive up the price? Do you think it's do you think he's really untradeable? And then on top of that, if somebody called you and made you a bigger offer, are you entertaining it, or is Myles just completely off limits?
So we kind of joked around about this. Like when I saw the quote and everything, I took it as, oh, that's the price tag. If you're saying, hey, this guy is not sellable for less than 2 firsts, it's going to take more than 2 firsts. Like that's the way I took it. And when you start talking about 3 first round picks, I'm obviously interested. You know what I mean? We need to fill some holes. You know what I mean? I'm not saying this is a complete dumpster fire. There was times last year it looked like that. But, 3 first rounders would plug a lot of holes for us. I don't know if I do it, man. But I mean, I definitely think that you have to listen to the offers. And then it just depends. Like if Philly calls and they say, hey, we'll give you 3 first rounders, are you entertaining? Do you want, the 31st pick or the 32nd pick and then potentially high 20s, for a couple of years? Is that worth it to you? I think it just depends on the situation. Like if the Raiders called, like the idea of him and Max Crosby together, I'm like, oh man, that's rough, but you probably get some good return on some draft picks. No, but then you also have to execute them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those things where I've said that I would at least listen, because if somebody blew your socks off with a trade offer, but I can see the other side of it also in terms of this is a guy who has been here his entire career. He said that he wants to be here his entire career. He bought minority ownership in the Cavs. He's invested into the Cleveland community. So you keep that guy on your team. You know what I mean? Like in terms of, because just as important as talent is like culture and morale. And I just feel like in leadership, and I think it sends the wrong message to, and I don't really care about the fans. I'm not talking about like us. I'm talking about to the locker room. It sends the wrong message if you trade that guy. So I can see the analytical side of it in my brain that says, if somebody calls me, especially if they're going to be drafting at the top of the draft, if they're perennial top 10 pickers and they're saying, we're going to give you 3 first round draft choices and, maybe something else. I'm like, man, it's hard to say no to that, but as much of a crapshoot that the draft can be, you're in more than likely with none of those picks will you pick anybody as good as Myles Garrett.
And what I'll say to that too is he's a guy that can bring talent back in. You know what I mean? Are you going to be able to get a top ranked, like let's say, and I'm just throwing a name out there. Let's say Khalil Mack. You know what I mean? I don't know if Khalil Mack wants to play with Myles Garrett, but it's a lot easier to bring him to Cleveland and pair him up with a guy like that. So, and the thing with me is they did that meeting, I think, right, with Myles, where, he wanted to sit down and talk. obviously that meeting went well. Because if it didn't go well, I guarantee you Myles would be letting, potential suitors know, hey, the for sale sign is going up at the house, hey, or he's keeping it. I don't know, But I think that says a lot about, what the message to the team is and to the locker room moving forward. You know what I mean? Obviously, they're not going to say, hey, we're going to completely, run this thing into the ground and get a bunch of draft capital. We already done that. Obviously sends the right message. They're going to try to, like you said, retool, bring in a veteran quarterback, a bridge guy, and let's go see what happens.
No, so yeah, like I said, I think it was good AB to basically come out and like you said to me that the meeting went well. If he's still here and they're not entertaining trade offers and you haven't heard anything from Myles, he's going to be here, and he obviously liked what he heard in that exit interview in terms of what the plan is going forward. Just kind of segueing then into the plan going forward and what he must have heard in that meeting. I've talked with some people on social media in comment sections of when talking about quarterbacks, and they were said, I said the Browns are competent QB play away from being, at least playoff contenders. And I'm hesitant to talk like that because I always get burnt being a Browns fan when and I didn't say Super Bowl contenders, and I didn't say they're playoff locks, and I didn't say that they're going to win the AFC North. I just said that they're playoff contenders with competent quarterback play, and I'm taking that away. I come to that conclusion, I guess, is by saying when Jameis Winston wasn't turning the ball over, the offense moved the ball, and the defense played well enough to win games if we had a good offense, or at least just in
it was a fun team to watch.
Yes. So it was a lot like the Joe Flacco games, just the defense wasn't as dominant. We weren't getting the turnovers that we got last year. So and I'm getting pushback though. There's holes on the offensive line. There's holes at linebacker. There's holes and I get that. I get that there are holes. I want TreVeyon Henderson. Actually, I want both Ohio State running backs if it's doable. I don't know if it's doable, but I want at least TreVeyon Henderson and another running back. Linebacker is an issue, especially I don't feel good about JOK. The fact that we haven't heard anything, and anything I have heard is they're still trying to see if he's going to get to play again. So linebacker's a need. I think depth at tight end is a need. Running back's definitely an issue. We need a left tackle. But except for they're talking like it's going to be DeJuan Jones. That being said, getting the quarterback position right, that is the Band-Aid on a lot of that stuff. And I'm also, when I say they're a competent quarterback away from being playoff contenders, I'm also assuming that they will plug some of these other holes. It's not a one-pick draft. You get to go pick your first-round pick, and then your second and your third and your fourth. We have 5 picks or 7 picks or whatever it is in the top 100.
5 in the top 102.
Yeah, so we can address a lot of holes in the draft this year and in free agency. I think you can go get a good bridge quarterback. You take your young guy at 2. You add a running back in this, the second or third round. You bring in a wide receiver to play with Judy. Like we said, it's a retool. It's not a rebuild. I don't think this team will be in position to be drafting top 5 again next year. At least that, as we sit today, I can obviously be very wrong because the Browns would do that to you, but I just watching. So I had some people saying, I think Darryl Reuter's been super negative on the Browns on social media, all off season. If you watch this game, the Browns aren't even close, blah, 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 blah. So I wanted to ask you, after watching the playoffs and the championship round, do you think the Browns are far away from being not necessarily Super Bowl contenders, but just being a team that's in the talk again, in the mix, making a playoff push, that kind of thing?
So I'm glad you said not a Super Bowl team, because I was going to tell you, man, the last few weeks, I'm like, woof, we got a lot of work to do. You know what I mean? Especially in the AFC. And it's not that it's completely that the Browns are completely on dumpster fire heading. I mean, it looks bad, but it is buildable. But then you also have Lamar Jackson, you have Josh Allen, you have Patrick Mahomes, you have very, very stiff competition in the AFC. I do think we're not that far. You plug a good quarterback in that's competent, this team is competent again. There's enough. Now, there's a lot of what ifs too, though. You know what I mean? As far as is Nick Chubb going to be on our team and look like the same guy? You know what I mean? That he was previous to the injury, or at least, you know what I mean, somewhat himself. Like, I'm with you. The 12 picks is huge. And a lot of those guys, you know, some of them are not going to make the team, but we're going to bring some talent in that we've been missing for the last 3 years. We're going to get some young guys in. And guys, surprise, I think we're good enough to be a competent team, but I still think we need to hit some drafts, man. We need to hit some drafts and bring some talented free agent guys in.
This episode is brought to you by Danger Coffee. Browns fans, we talk about how Danger Coffee is made free from mold toxins that are in 45% of the world's coffee, but that's not all that Danger Coffee has to offer. Mineral and nutrient deficiencies are a big deal. They make you feel sick, tired, stressed, and they can give you brain fog. These deficiencies negatively affect your immune system, your digestion, sleep, metabolism. Have you ever wondered why you get an initial burst from your coffee, but then you get that little crash not long after? Danger Coffee's patent-pending process remineralizes your body with more than 50 trace minerals and electrolytes, leaving you more energized, engaged, powerful. These micronutrients enter the cells to boost performance. They bind to toxins to provide detoxification support. I know that sounds like a lot, but the bottom line, guys, is minerals matter, and most of us really don't get enough of them on a daily basis. Danger Coffee delivers micronutrients, plus it gives you access to the minerals you already have. Head to dangercoffee.com, use our code DAWGS, DAWGS, for 10% off your order, and that code can be used over and over, so you get 10% off every order you make using code DAWGS. It's time to start every day off with a cup of coffee that gets you going and actually keeps you going. dangercoffee.com, code DAWGS.
Obviously we have holes. AB has been aggressive in free agency and the trade market every single offseason. I expect nothing less. I expect the Browns to make what would be considered maybe a splashy move at a position of need. Like, he's not the kind of guy to just sit on his hands. And I don't think Jimmy Haslam's going to handcuff him in terms of the way we do the salary cap either, because like,
not a chance.
He wants to right the ship also, you know what I mean? So right. I think the Browns will be aggressive in free agency and in the trade market. I think that we have 5 picks in the top 100 to add a lot of young talent to this team. I don't think that we're going to be in a position to be bad. To me, the biggest thing I want to see, or my biggest takeaway, I guess, from watching the playoffs and the especially the championship rounds, is we can't beat ourselves. Penalties. Especially pre-snap penalties and turnovers. Turnovers were such a huge story in the playoffs. Every team that had turnovers lost. The Lions, lost. The Commanders, you know what I mean? Like they all lost. The Ravens, Chargers, they all lost. And in the penalties, you can't go into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs and you're if you beat yourselves. You know what I mean? Like, the Chiefs aren't going to beat themselves. They're going to play solid football. They're going to be well coached. Same with all these other, high level playoff teams. So to me, not only in the talent position, I need to see this team take a step forward in terms of discipline. And a lot of people will crap all over Stefanski and say he's got to be the one to do that. And he does take a part of that. The team reflects the leadership of the coach, but also I want to see some personal accountability out of the players. Andy Buckins said it on the radio months back. If your coach has to be your cheerleader and your biggest leader and your biggest source of inspiration, you're probably not a very good team. That's why you have captains. Like you got to lead on the field. You have to have guys who step onto that field with you who are leaders. And lead by example. You have lead by example guys, you have vocal leaders, and they're all important. If your coach has to be your hoorah guy, like it's probably not a good thing. And everybody points to Dan Campbell because he is, he's like a vocal hoorah guy. But they have guys who take that on the field. You know what I mean? Who have bought into that. It's not just him doing it, preaching at them. They have taken that and made it their identity. So I need to see the Browns be much more disciplined if they want to be good, because we're going to be fusing the team with young talent to go with some of our veteran leadership, and we can't beat ourselves. We have to come out. We have to not lead the league for the third year in a row in pre-snap penalties. We can't turn the ball over at just an insanely high clip. If you look at the last 28 games the Browns have played, how many turnovers do we have between the Flacco games and then the Jameis Winston games and then the DTR games?
DTR.
Yeah, I mean, what you can say about Deshaun is basically he just didn't turn the ball over, at least. So there was the small stretch of games at the beginning of the year where we weren't turning it over, but outside, I'd say in 20 of our last 28 games, we are an insanely high rate of turnovers. You're not going to win football games that way. So I think talent-wise, we are not that far off in terms of like some of the holes people think are holes. I think they'll be addressed. And I think like the big one people are talking about is the offensive line.
We're about to play. Yeah.
I think the offensive line is going to have a huge bounce back season.
Yes.
Because I think they even said it in interviews after the season. They had no identity. They were catering an offense to one player instead of what the group did well. I don't think that this offensive line, when healthy, has just fallen off a cliff that much. Yes, they've aged and maybe they aren't as dominant as before, but I think getting back to what their strength is, I think they have a bounce back year. I honestly feel like as long as they stay healthy. 2 years ago, we struggled to run the ball, but we were so injured. This year, we were healthy and they just didn't look good. I think if we're healthy, these guys have a bounce back season.
I think it's huge that we're going back to Stefanski's offense. You know what I mean? I think it's huge for that line. I think that line needed to hear that because they played better in that offense. You know what I mean? You didn't start hearing about, we don't have an identity. We're not sure what we're doing. The end of the year was crazy because you had guys just kind of saying stuff like, well, he was supposed to take 8 steps. He took 6 and basically ran into me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm with you. I think going back to Stefanski's offense, I think it improves the offensive line. I think it improves the offensive line and probably the running back game.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I guess you mentioned Nick Chubb. Are you banking on Nick Chubb or are you adding at least 2 running backs?
Okay, so I'm in the camp right now, and it's only just like the Cleveland fan in me. I think he comes back on like another kind of contract like he did last year. You know what I mean? I don't think the Browns signed like multi-year deal or anything like that, but I think like an incentive kind of deal. He likes Cleveland. He wants to be in Cleveland. And then if he can get healthy, I mean, man, I'm ready to see Nick Chubb be the old Nick Chubb again. But yeah, I think you do have to, you got to add some talent. I think Ford is nice when he plays that role as far as, you know, you bring him in on a blow and he can take it to the house. But I don't think you can rely on him as like an every down kind of back. And I like him in, you know, almost like a Duke Johnson. I've said that before. Like I like him in that, you know, receiving back kind of role. But bring in another young guy. I know you're big on Henderson. I don't know how you can't be big on Henderson right now after the last couple, you know, after what we just watched. But I do think, and it's a nice running back class. You know, like obviously there's going to be
one of the
loaded
ones.
Yeah. Yep. There's like 4 or 5 guys where I'm like, yeah, I'd be thrilled if the Browns, you know what I mean, drafted that kid. But I do think Nick Chubb will be a Cleveland Brown next year.
I think if he is on the team, it's going to be of like a 1 year. It's going to be a very low. He's going to be making, I don't want to say they'll like insult him with the veteran minimum, but it's going to be a very low deal, I think. Andrew Berry, in my opinion, was very non-committal to him when they talked about him at the end of the season press conference. So I think it could go either way. Obviously, I want Nick Chubb to be on the Browns, but I also understand like it's not a charity, you know, and we're trying to win football games and you just did right by him by, you know, restructuring and offering him an incentive-based deal a year after when people thought he was never going to play again. Then he gets re-injured and it's like, okay, we don't want to toss you to the curb, but like he's going to have to give a lot more than he gets, I think, to be on this team. And the reason I think he will is he didn't look like the Nick Chubb of old in the games he did play, and then he gets injured again. I don't think the market for Nick Chubb will be crazy high.
That's fair. That's fair, man. Yeah. No, I agree. I don't think he's going to get like, obviously not like a Saquon or a Derrick Henry kind of deal. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think he's getting DeAndre Swift kind of money. You know, I think he's got there's a lot of injuries piled up now over the last 2 years, and it'll scare some teams off. It will, just straight up.
If it could be one of those things, though, where if he is able to be
he's a steal, bro.
Of Nick Chubb, it'll be
steal.
Absolute steal. You know what I mean?
For any team, whoever gets him.
Yes.
You know, if it's not the Browns.
I'm excited. I'm very excited to see what they come up with in terms of the offense, because they said the goal isn't to go back to just Kevin Stefanski's offense. It's to go back, use that as a foundation, but we're going to build on it. And with Tommy Rees stuff, I'm very excited to see what they come up with, because man, what we just watched for 17 games was so atrocious. And I think it made guys look so much worse. And I honestly think they're kind of pissed about it. Like, I think guys are being talked about like they're washed and how bad they are. And they're like, no, like, you put us in a position to fail on national TV. And now everybody thinks we suck. Week. You know what I mean? I think they're a little pissed off about it. So I'm looking to get back to that in doing what they do best, the play action, getting those guys to just freeze for a minute, slow the pass rush down, marrying the run game and the pass game. I just don't think the offense and the team in general is as far away as what some people say. And like I said, do I think we're walking into Arrowhead to beat the Chiefs week 1? No. But I think if we start off well, and we're getting good quarterback play, and we're back to Kevin's offense with Tommy Rees's stuff blended in, and I think we can be
fun to watch.
Yes, and I think we can make a playoff push. And once you make the playoffs, all bets are off. You know, it's you just whoever's best that day. So I think we can be in the talks of playing meaningful football again at the end of the year. I'm not going to come out and make any bold predictions like we're winning 15 games and, you know, we're going to host a playoff game, but we've seen what can happen to a team that isn't good and then adds a good quarterback. What happens to their team in 1 year? That good quarterback play can mask a lot of other stuff.
Yep. I mean, Denver and Washington both just did it.
Yes. And people will say, well, none of these quarterbacks are those guys. But one, we don't know that yet. And nobody was saying that about Bo Nix. Nobody thought Bo Nix was going to lead the Broncos to the playoffs. And he ended up being a betting favorite halfway through the season to win Rookie of the Year. And then Jaden Daniels just went off.
Ran out, yeah.
So, but all right, well, I think we'll wrap it up. We don't want to ramble. I don't want to leave Josh too much to edit because he's got diapers to change and bottles to feed and all that good stuff now. But we appreciate you guys being here, hanging out with us, just Justin and myself. This might be the first time Justin and I have ever done an episode by ourselves.
I mean, it's been a while, bro. It's been a while just getting me on the show anymore. 490
It took 490 episodes for me and you to do one, just the two of us.
We just do this. This is just normal. This is just two bros just shooting the shit right now. The only thing normal. This is
the only one was an Xbox controller and my Xbox headset.
Correct, and a headset. Yeah.
Maybe that could be a Patreon idea. If you join the Discord, you get our gamer tags, and you can you can play
Call of Duty with me. I got a 0.36 kill death ratio. Let's go, brother.
Yeah, you can carry me to some wins.
That's right.
We're just old dads. I'm not trying to be sweaty. I just want to play with my friends and talk football.
Just old, yeah.
And maybe shoot people. It's just
maybe get a kill.
Yes.
Or a dub.
Sorry, Josh. If 22-year-old heard me say that, he'd be so disappointed in me.
Oh, he'd be He'd be like, come on, man. You know we're getting 2 tonight.
Yeah.
Get 2 dubs tonight.
2 in our first 2 maps, maybe.
That's right.
But all right. We're rambling now, which is what I said we didn't want to do. Sorry, Josh. Again, we appreciate you guys being here for 491 episodes and counting. Let us know what you guys think the Browns should do in the draft. And as we enter free agency, let us know what you think some of the holes are in this team and how the Browns should address it. Congratulations again to Josh and family on the new baby. Make sure you guys tell Josh congratulations in the comments. I'm sure he'll appreciate it. And we will see you guys sometime in the next week or so. We'll see how things are going at Josh's house, how we're getting these episodes out. But if there's a little bit of a hiatus, don't worry, we're still here, we're still recording. It's just a matter of when we can get them out to you. But again, we appreciate you guys being here, and we'll see you guys sometime next week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Dawgs Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at the Dawgs Podcast. Get your thoughts on the show at thedawgspodcast.com.